meeting. Today, we're lucky to be sponsored by Ocean First Bank. Special thank you to Ocean First. Happy New Year, everybody. It's obviously our first meeting in the 2021 year. So I want to wish everyone a happy new year and hope everyone's happy and safe. Couple important announcements before we get into our meeting. Tomorrow we have a very important webinar at 10 a.m. It's titled The Rollout of the Vaccine in Cape May County. We have joining us on that call will be Kevin Lair, Cape May County Acting Administrator, Kevin Thomas, who is our Public Health Coordinator, and Michael Donahue, who is our County COVID Liaison. We have a great turnout for that already. We have well over 100 folks that are joining that call. So please make sure you get on. Very important information as far as the vaccine goes and how that's being rolled out. And hopefully you can then disseminate to your folks as well. We also have a very important webinar on Monday at 2 p.m. where New Jersey DEP Assistant Commissioner Vince Mazzei will join us to discuss a proposed rule change as a result of Governor Murphy's executive order on climate change. These rules will have potentially an impact on our business community, and please make sure you join us for that call as well. You can, of course, register for these webinars on our Chamber's website, and hopefully most of you receive Vicky's daily update and the happenings in Cape May County. So there's links on those emails as well. All right, we have a very special speaker with us today, somebody who's very involved in our county chamber and actually swore us all in a few months back. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Vinny D'Alessandro, who's the president of the Southern Region for Ocean First Bank. Vinny, take it away.
Thank you, Doug, and Happy New Year, everybody. And first of all, I'd like to thank Vicki Clark and the Chamber for being such an incredible resource for us and the small business community. You know, we have 1,300 employees that, we work hard to keep safe, and we have 300,000 clients that we work hard to make sure we're providing the resources. And it's, the Chamber and the work that they do really helps us, get down the path. And when Vicki gave me the opportunity to introduce Senator Testa today, I couldn't wait to jump on the opportunity. He truly provides us with great hope in his representation of us during these challenging times. He's got such strong and undying leadership. It's my pleasure to absolutely, read you through his incredible bio. So it's important to understand the background, of what brings this kind of leader to our area, an area of the state that's so important to all of us. So over the years, his family has developed deep roots in South Jersey and Cumberland County. On his father's side, his great parents emigrated from Italy, similar to mine, to secure a better future for their children and themselves, and probably like my family with $2 in his wallet. His grandfather became the first elected mayor of the city of Vineland and later became a judge, despite not even speaking English until the first grade. His father went on to start and build their family law firm. And on his mother's side, which is really an incredible story, his grandparents were Polish Jews who met in a Nazi concentration camp during World War II and then were later rescued by Allied soldiers. After the war, they came to the United States where his mom was born, and they settled in Buna and ran a family chicken farm. Incredible story. Senator Testa is a graduate of Villanova University Law School and received his master's at Temple University Beasley School of Law, both competitors of my alma mater, Rutgers University, but we'll leave it at that. He and his wife, Julie, live in Vineland, and their 3 children, Eva Marie, Sarah, and Tripp. At the age of 26, he was named board chairman of the Vineland Downtown Improvement District, Main Street, Vineland, and he's a proud member of the Greater Vineland chapter of the NAACP and past chair of one of my favorite organizations, the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Cumberland and Salem counties. As the incredibly proud father of 2 little girls, he has been the board president of the Vineland Regional Dance Company for several years. By the way, we expect some dance moves today, and was the 2016 recipient of the South Jersey Cultural Alliance Paul Aiken Encore Award for his dedication to the arts in South Jersey. In 2019, he was elected to the New Jersey State Senate to represent the 1st Legislative District and is a member of the Senate Budget and Labor Committees. Not sure where he finds the time, but special people like Michael do. Now I'd like to mention his prolific role during the pandemic, where he dedicated his time to assisting the families of the first legislative district. And it's true leaders that kind of come out in the time of uncertainty like we have. With Assemblyman Eric Simonson and Antoine McClellan, he has helped nearly 4,000 residents receive the unemployment benefits they deserve. The senator strongly opposed Governor Murphy's state shutdown and introduced legislation which would limit executive orders issued by the governor to 14 days. As an attorney, Senator Testa represented New Jersey small businesses to allow owners to reopen their stores. And how important is that? He fought against the state shutdown, allowing big box stores to stay open and forcing small businesses, gun stores, and religious institutions to close. In addition, he opposed New Jersey borrowing $9.9 billion to balance the state's budget. Due to his lawsuit, the state Supreme Court required New Jersey to borrow only the amount the state lost due to the pandemic, and as a result, the state only needed to borrow $4.5 billion to balance the state budget. Senator Testa has been a vocal advocate for election integrity. After Governor Phil Murphy issued an executive order that created a full vote by mail for the 2020 general election, he challenged the executive order in court as the order violated the United States and New Jersey state constitutions. It is my pleasure to introduce our senator from the first legislative district, Michael Testa. Thank you, Michael, so much for all you do to represent us.
Thank you so much. I mean, what a stellar introduction, Vinny. I think I'm going to be hiring you to introduce me at all of my events. I do want to thank Vicki Clark and the Chamber for setting this up. You know, the Chamber has stepped up so tremendously during this entire COVID-19 pandemic. You know, roughly a little over 300 days ago, we were told we were going to have 14 days, right, to flatten the curve. Here we are, 300 days, and our businesses are suffering throughout the state of New Jersey, but particularly in Cape May County, where we have a seasonal economy for the most part. And I have to say, Vicki and the Chamber have done such a tremendous job of stepping up and being that voice, and a voice that I can carry to Trenton. But you know, a lot of that voice started with the members and the leadership of the Chamber of Commerce. So I want to thank you for that. Vicki was kind enough to send over 3 topics to me, and I think I also forgot to wish everybody a happy new year. This is the first meeting that we've had, you know, in a while. I'm happy to be on here. Happy New Year to everyone. But Vicki was kind enough to send over, you know, 3 questions to me, and I'll address them in my comments. The first one was the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection and their proposed rule changes on protecting against climate threats. That's known as NJPACT, NJPACT. And as we are all aware, for the most part, the NJDEP is proposing some drastic land use rule changes that are going to have major impacts on development, redevelopment, and infrastructure projects as part of its protecting against climate threats rules, especially in our coastal area of the state, as a result of the governor's executive order on climate change. So I want to be clear, the legislative body has not moved forward in any of my committees on legislation modeled or drafted by analogy pursuant to NJPACT. However, as many are aware, the Environment Chairman Bob Smith, who was the individual who implemented the ban on plastic bags, and more anti-business legislation has been in lockstep with Governor Murphy's environmental plan and the Energy Master Plan, which, to be kind, is to say it's extremely ambitious. I would say that Energy Master Plan is borderline, you know, delusional, considering the goals that it is setting for the state of New Jersey, that I just don't think can, in any realistic world, can be met. I have checked with the staff at the Senate Republican office who oversees the Environmental Committee, and they have stated that there has not been legislation introduced yet in regards to the NJPACT. As I stated earlier, all of this stems from Governor Murphy's executive order, Executive Order 100, which was enacted in late January of 2020, right before, obviously, you know, the world changed dramatically due to COVID-19. The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection is rewriting the rules affecting many, many state environmental issues, but specifically rules that mandate that all municipalities must adopt immediately regarding municipal land use law. The DEP wants the governor's signature to have these new rules implemented by the end of this year, 2021. Now, these new rules are a big land grab and have extremely harsh consequences to municipalities. NJ PACT has charted a course of immediate and comprehensive action, taking steps that both, number one, cut emissions of greenhouse gases and short-lived climate pollutants, and two, tailor land use and planning policies to adapt to unavoidable impacts such as sea level rise, extreme weather, and chronic flooding. At this time, the Republican legislative body, of which I am a part of, the caucus, has not been in any conversations on the NJ PACT path forward and as it falls under the governor's New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Vicki, how did you want to handle this? Did we want to go questions on each point, or did you want me to move forward with all 3 points and then field all the questions?
Make your comments in general, and then we'll go to Q&A.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Vicki. So moving right along, something that's been in the news lately and was on our ballot, obviously, was the cannabis question that was on the ballot in November. New Jersey voters overwhelmingly, over 2/3, voted in favor of legalizing cannabis for personal use, not just medical use. But I have to tell you that the legislation that has flowed from that has been quite a disaster, and the legislature has not been able to agree. And so the question really that stems around businesses, can we get the legislature to recognize the safety sensitive position and concerns of employers and have New Jersey mirror Colorado in workplace safety rules and allowing for continuing pre-employment drug testing for workplace safety positions, and two, simplify the convoluted workplace impairment recognition expert outlined in the event of an incident or regular random testing. I can tell you this, this was a bipartisan issue. The concerns that Vicki had sent over to me, it was concerns that I voiced in the legislature. The last thing that we want to have are individuals who are out there working very hard day in and day out have a workplace travesty, a disaster that happens due to someone who is quote unquote legally consuming and ingesting marijuana, whether it's in a smoking form or ingesting in some type of gummy or brownie form, causing a workplace accident that's going to cost people life and limb. The legislation that was recently passed by both houses but not signed by the governor did not really address the full concerns of the business community. And that is a key reason why I did not support the original bill, because the business community's concerns were not addressed to the extent that I thought was necessary to make sure that workplaces were still going to remain, number one, be able to have a drug-free workplace, and number two, to be a safe workplace. At this time, the bill sits on the governor's desk, and it is my understanding that he has been the least business-friendly governor our state has ever seen. This was a campaign promise that he made in 2017 that he has not been able to deliver on, but here we are. During budget committee, I advocated and requested additional protections for business owners. However, unfortunately, I'm one voice and I'm in the minority party. That bill moves forward without those additional requirements. I can say this, as a senator who's willing to fight not only just for our legislative district, but specifically for all businesses, I can always introduce legislation in the future that supports our business industry with the legalization of recreational marijuana, and would love to work with this Chamber of Commerce, the South Jersey Chamber of Commerce, and the State Chamber of Commerce to draft really impactful bills that keep our workplaces safe. The next item that Vicki you sent over was, is a controversial one, and unfortunately, for some that have voiced opposition, it seems to be one that is an inevitable happening, that we're not going to be able to prevent it, which is offshore wind. You know, in the commercial fishing industry, which is so near and dear to the lifeblood of Cape May County and our legislative district, while they don't really oppose offshore wind development, there has been some concern with the lack of pre-construction planning to the long-term impacts on our sustainable fisheries and the New Jersey shore tourism experience. I can tell you that Assemblyman Simonson and McClellan and myself we share the exact same concerns as the fishing industry has with offshore wind development. I can tell you that the NJDEP and New Jersey environmental groups' last thoughts are the impact of our businesses. It just seems that they want to roll this out and then see what happens to our, you know, to our industries without any real concern. This is, you know, sort of their baby. And, you know, there hasn't been much voice of the businesses being heard because, quite frankly, the Murphy administration and the NJDEP and other environmental groups don't want to hear it. They think this is the future, and this is where they are going. So, you know, you sent one question to me, Vicky. You know, is there any discussion of a requirement of offshore wind developers to set aside reasonable negotiated amounts to provide some financial protections to these industries, specifically tourism and commercial fishing, if our fears and concerns come to fruition? I can tell you we've had multiple discussions regarding offshore wind. However, they have yet to address any type of compensation. I'm more than welcome, and I welcome the fisheries input, which we've already had a decent amount of, and the Chamber of Commerce's input, so that we can introduce legislation that would protect those businesses that are so near and dear to, you know, the lifeblood of our legislative district, such as tourism and the fishing industry. You know, the second tier question that you asked and sent to me, Vicky, was, you know, during a meeting of the New Jersey Environmental Resources Working Group, we learned a developer's environmental research and monitoring fee of $10,000 per megawatt of project capacity has been established by the NJDEP and BPU as part of New Jersey's second offshore wind solicitation. And you asked two-part question: how was this value established, and why was there no public process associated with setting the amount of this fee? I can tell you that my office, myself, Assemblyman Simonson, and Assemblyman McClellan have specifically asked the NJDEP to answer these questions, and we have yet to hear back. I'm going to ask a question back, and it's rhetorical, but what can you expect from a governor who, during a global pandemic and shutdown, continued to have hearings on toll increases without any public input? And we still, in the middle of a pandemic, we still increased the minimum wage. I mean, you know, it's amazing to me that, you know, he's able to keep declaring an emergency in our state, yet there was no input on the gas tax increase nor minimum wage increase when businesses were starving and essentially being shut down by the governor's executive orders. So, I mean, to me, the hypocrisy is rather rich. Vicky, I think you're on mute. There you go.
Yeah. Any other issues or just general things that you see coming up?
You know,
About?
the one glimmer of hope that I had, and we discussed this sort of offline, was that during one of the governor's addresses, you know, prior to his State of the State, he said that this Memorial Day is going to look drastically different than last Memorial Day. We know that that's necessary. That's not something that we can sustain in Cape May County or Atlantic County, you know, our neighbor, you know, the number 1 and 2 counties in tourism for the entire state of New Jersey. We know that Cape May County generates $550 million per year in tourism tax dollars. Cape May County cannot continue to go down a path where they're not allowed to have their industries open. I don't believe that, and this isn't me being an alarmist, that Cape May County can sustain another summer of not having a full summer at or full, you know, near or full capacity. Obviously, I've been a staunch advocate this entire time that we should be reopening with a plan. The great thing is Cape May County, at the time, the Board of Chosen Freeholders, now the Board of Commissioners, came up with a plan that they submitted, you know, and with the help of the board, Mike Donahue, who was the acting county administrator at the time, I know with a lot of input from the Chamber of Commerce, created a plan. It was a wonderful plan. It was a plan that was fully adopted by our neighbor, Atlantic County. The casinos even fashioned, my understanding is the casinos even fashioned their reopening plan, which had a ramping up of dates. They adopted a plan very similar. The South Jersey Chamber of Commerce adopted a plan that was very similar. All of those plans in a bipartisan fashion were given the stamp of approval, obviously of me, but also the Senate President Sweeney, who is very pro South Jersey. Those plans have unfortunately languished on the desk of our governor since May of 2020. So, we're coming up on, 9.5 months of those plans sitting there and not being listened to. Our governor continues to state that the data is going to drive the dates. Well, I know what the data was from Cape May County in the middle of the summer. Our legislative district was less than 2% of all COVID-19 positive cases in the state of New Jersey. Yet the governor continued to have a blanket approach to the entire state, much to the chagrin of all of our business owners. And it was wholly unfair. He keeps on stating that we're all in this together. We're not all in this together. And, it just was wholly unfair to the businesses and the citizens and the visitors to Cape May County. Vicki, you asked me, are there any other issues? I have a whole lot of other issues. I don't know how much you want me to take up, but, one of the sort of themes of my election in 2019 was that I made a lot of promises. And now I think in the little more than a year that I've been there, I think a lot of people can say Michael made promises, but they were promises made and promises kept. I mean, I promised to make sure that I put South Jersey first rather than constantly have South Jersey be forgotten. And, myself, I took this from Assemblyman Simonson, so I always give him credit. Just because we're at the bottom of the state doesn't mean we have to be treated like we're at the bottom of the barrel. They seem to love to take our tourism tax dollars, but, obviously, since the COVID pandemic, I've been working with all of the Cape May County officials and businesses to reopen the economy in South Jersey. I introduced legislation for $500 million in tourism taxpayer money sent to Trenton to be returned to Cape May County. We held the first annual State of South Jersey that was in a response to the governor's State of the State, because again, his State of the State did not address the issues and needs of South Jersey businesses and South Jersey residents. I introduced legislation to provide Motor Vehicle Commission access to Cape May and Cumberland residents, instead of having our residents drive an hour away to go to the Motor Vehicle Commission. We had a law passed recognizing the Howell House in Cape May as the Harriet Tubman Museum. Another law passed appropriates 87 million plus from the New Jersey Library Construction Fund, which is going to help the Cumberland Library, the Millville Library, Cape May Library, all receive funding from that legislation. I introduced legislation to ensure that law enforcement and first responders received adequate COVID-19 testing. I introduced legislation to support Jersey Fresh farmers during COVID-19 pandemic to ensure that they did not turn their crops over by providing children in need of Jersey Fresh produce. Obviously, I've been very pro-taxpayer. I've sued Governor Murphy to stop the borrowing of $9.9 billion for the budget. And Vinny, I found it pretty funny during your introduction. You said we only had to borrow $4.4 billion. Interestingly enough, $1 billion of that $4.4 billion, Governor Murphy thought was a good idea to put in surplus. Now, I'm no banker, Vinny, you are, not me, but I don't understand how you can borrow $1 billion and say that that's surplus. Borrowed money is never surplus in any ledger that I've been made aware of. But again, I think you're able to do mathematical gymnastics when you're in the governor's seat, I guess. Obviously, I've supported real reforms that would decrease the burden on our property taxpayers. Luckily, we had a law passed that excludes armed services combat zone pay from gross income taxation. I'm proud of that fact. Even though I didn't serve in the military, I'm not a veteran. My hat goes off to all of our heroes that have served in the military and have been in combat zones. But think about this. We were the last state in the United States of America that continued to tax combat pay. It was preposterous that we were still there. I could go on and on. I don't know if you want me to, Vicki, or not. I think I should probably pause and yield.
But I'll jump in with a question, and I'll invite everyone on the Zoom to either place a question in the chat, or we will use the raised hand feature as well. And I really thank you and Assemblyman McClellan and Simonson for your advocacy for our tourism and hospitality industry, which we know has been, probably the hardest hit from a financial perspective. We know our healthcare industry, they probably worked the hardest through COVID, but the governor's administration has been extremely resistant to providing any dedicated funding for tourism and hospitality. And you know that advocates in this industry have presented several bills, and there really doesn't seem to be a movement to see any real support for tourism and hospitality to help these businesses, many of which are small family-run businesses. They're seasonal, and some of them either won't come back or won't recover for the long run. Do you know of any effort that I might not have even heard about that might be on the horizon?
Sure. I mean, Vicki, what you cited was, it's a startling statistic, 31% of all businesses in the state of New Jersey will not reopen, right? I mean, as a result of COVID-19. It's amazing to me, that the governor, and I still have a pending lawsuit regarding this, that the governor has been able to pick winners and losers in the COVID-19 pandemic. He constantly says that we are all in this together. We have not been all in this together. Big box stores like Home Depot, and I don't have anything against Home Depot, were posting record numbers during COVID-19, while small mom and pop shops that are the lifeblood of our economy were being shut down in record numbers. There was a bipartisan support that would have helped our restaurant industry through both houses. It was unanimous in the Senate, I believe. If it wasn't unanimous, there was only one nay. The governor vetoed that bill. I mean, this is a person that is just out of touch. I can tell you that myself and Senator O'Scanlan, another Republican who sits on the budget committee with me, we introduced legislation that would provide $300 million from the EDA to small businesses, so that it would actually trickle down, not to those huge businesses, but to small businesses. That hasn't gone anywhere. I mean, I scratch my head, and many times, Doug and Vinny, I beat my head against the wall, because I just don't understand how out of touch this governor and his administration is when it comes to the lifeblood of the South Jersey economy, and that's the small business. That, especially in seasonal businesses like we have in Cape May County. And I know we have those, shoulder seasons now that are being more utilized because of efforts by the chamber and, businesses that realize, hey, we can utilize the fall better than we used to in the past. We can utilize the spring better, but it's still just not enough. And it just goes to show you how out of touch King Murphy and his administration are.
Thank you. I don't see any questions so far.
Yeah, Senator, I have a question. We talked offline right before we got on about the vaccine. I think you had some interesting statistics. Obviously, we have a call scheduled tomorrow where many will be on, but if we could get your quick insight into the distribution of the vaccine throughout the state.
Sure. I mean, the Murphy administration is taking the easy way out and blaming the Trump administration for a supply chain issue. Last week, a week ago today, I believe it was, Thursday of last week, approximately 300,000 vaccines had been administered in the state of New Jersey. Only 19,000 of those had been administered in either Atlantic County, Cumberland County, or Cape May County. Again, it appears by looking at those numbers that South Jersey is being left behind. That's wholly unfair. There hasn't been a real, in my opinion, concerted effort to have a coordination between the state, counties, and municipalities to make sure that this COVID-19 vaccine is distributed properly. You look at our neighboring state, New York, they were throwing away the vaccine, last week or 2 weeks ago. It's a real problem. And, I think that Cape May County, I can tell you, I had a Zoom with the Cape May County officials a few days ago. They are on top of the issue, and I'm really confident that Cape May County is yet again going to spring forth as a leader. To contrast that, I can tell you Cumberland County is not going to do that. You know, they have not been a leader. I mean, you have a multitude of people in Cape May County who are on top of this issue, and they're saying, listen, we will work 7 days a week to distribute this vaccine, provided we actually get enough vaccine to distribute. You know, and their goal, my understanding is going to be about 1,000 a week, which is significant. Obviously, if you're able to see 1,000 people a week in a low populated county like Cape May County. So I think Cape May County is going to spring forth yet again as a leader, just like they were with their reopening plan.
We have a question from Eric, and Eric, you can unmute yourself to ask your question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Eric.
Hey, how you doing, Senator? I actually have a quick question about Ocean, the offshore wind project.
Sure.
A lot of concern that I think that we've heard from the business community is, or not just the business community, but residents in general, is that there's specifically concern about how much more they'll have to pay for electricity because of this project. And I was just kind of curious as to, given if the offshore wind project by Ørsted proceeds and it is built, what kind of legislation could be done so that it minimizes the cost to the consumer?
Well, you know, again, that's a great question, Eric. You know, we've been assured, I can tell you, that it's not going to be any additional cost to the consumer, you know, because this is, you know, part of a green energy plan. You know, all I can say is, you know, we have to wait and see, unfortunately, to make sure that, you know, their promises made are promises kept, that this is not going to be additional fees to the end user. You know, the other thing that I think a lot of the concerns, Eric, that I've been hearing about, are people are talking to me, you know, about brownouts in California. And they're saying, you know, here we have Governor Murphy, who's saying that he wants to make New Jersey the East Coast California. And a lot of people have said to me, we're very concerned that if we're overly reliant on this form of energy, we don't want to have brownouts in the middle of summer when people are at the shore, you know, because especially, you know, in the hotter weather, you know, we want to ensure that businesses are going to be able to keep their air conditioning on and their lights on and the hotels running and refrigeration running, things of that nature. So I have to tell you, we're going to keep a really close eye on this to make sure their promises made are promises kept.
Thanks, Eric. And Senator, we're going to go to my good friend Mike Egginton from the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce, who has a question. Mike, will you unmute yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Vicki. Hey, Senator, how are you?
I'm doing really well, Michael. I didn't know you were on. I didn't know we had such dignitaries.
Come on.
Online.
I have to go on Senate budget in a few minutes.
So do I.
Oh, that's right. You're part of the committee.
Yes.
I forgot. I'm flip-flopping because Nellie Poe changed her committee to 115. So we're kind of going back and forth. But Vicki knows this. One of the bills that's up in Senate Commerce is that county-based mitigation plan opening bill. It's Vin Gopal's and Sweeney's bill. Bruce Shelley already had a hearing on it. So I want to give kudos to Vicki, because Vicki and Will Morey, as well as Christina Renna, were the two chambers that came up with the idea early on. You know, Tom Bracken, when he talks, you know, mentions it, he'll mention it today. He's going to testify in support. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Senate Bill 3093. So, and it follows the health metrics. Look, you know, Senator, Cape May County is different than Bergen and Passaic County. So there isn't any reason why, if we're doing better here in South Jersey, that we can't, you know, open up a little sooner, a little quicker, if the health metrics, you know, follow. So I wanted to throw that out there. And kudos.
And Michael, to your point, if I may, you're 100% right. I mean, and you know, I recall Governor Murphy saying he was going to take a surgical approach to the state of New Jersey.
Right.
And he has always said that the data is going to drive the dates, yet he doesn't apparently pay attention to the data that we provide him from South Jersey. But I also said, you know, if one is going to take a surgical approach, one uses a scalpel, not an axe or a meat cleaver. And I think with South Jersey, he's continuously used an axe and a meat cleaver and not a surgical approach.
Yeah, but yeah, I often say this is kudos to you. If I had a couple of you in the Senate and a couple of Steve Orahos, we'd be doing all right, statewide on a lot of business issues. The two other things I wanted to bring up that you talked about on the offshore wind, and Vicki, you remember this years ago, I think it was during Corzine when they were talking about offshore wind. I remember you brought to my attention about how close they were going to build the wind turbines. And you brought up the tourism aspect, your chamber and a lot of the shore chambers. And I believe Ørsted and other companies have pushed those wind turbines further out, because obviously you don't want to be, on the Jersey Shore, which is, a good part of the tourism industry, looking at that right on top of you. So I wanted to, sort of reflect on that. The other thing I was going to mention, Senator, that PACT initiative through DEP, that's huge. And, it's an agency that's doing it, not the legislature. So I would really encourage you and your colleagues on both sides of the aisle. There is the Legislative Oversight Committee to really, review some of these things. It's going to have dramatic impact on land use, as you said, on our air program, our Title V permits for, businesses that have to get air permits. It's going to, on boilers that companies use. So we're in discussions right now with the department, but, it's something that I think the legislature needs to, sort of rein in the DEP and, ask for them, what is it exactly, the details, what are you planning on doing? Because that's why we have three branches of government. So.
Michael, I couldn't agree with you more. And look, the legislature, obviously I introduced the legislation along with Senator Doherty to be able to review the governor's executive orders every 14 days. And yet the legislature, controlled by one party, shot that idea down. So it took power away from the legislature. So, New Jersey has been ruled by fiat, really since that original 14-day flattening the curve. And I couldn't agree with you more. Look, I'm all for preserving our environment. I'm not one of these guys that says, develop and be damned and let's see what happens. No, I want to do everything we can to absolutely preserve, especially our pristine shores in Cape May County. We want to make sure that they are in fact preserved, but we also can't stifle all of the development in the process. And, this NJ Pact is precisely government bureaucracy run amok. That's what this is, and again, I believe that the legislature should be that third separate but equal branch of government. And we need to be able to flex some of our muscle when it comes to bureaucracy run amok.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you for allowing me to, and it's always great to work with you. And I'll see you in and out of the committee in a little while.
Thank you.
Senator, we have, I think, a couple more questions in the chat. And so with respect to your time, we'll try to get to these and then let you go to your next meeting.
Thank you so much.
Another vaccine question was, do you know how the allocation of the vaccine is being decided, by population or some other method?
We don't know this, but we actually have requested this information yesterday from the Department of Health and the governor's office. Because, again, those phases, it's very confusing. I can tell you how many constituents have called our office looking for guidance as to whether they were eligible, whether they are not eligible. So the unfortunate answer to that question is we do not know this at this time, but we've requested that information from the DOH and the governor's office.
Jeff Kalin is commenting in response to Mike Egginton's comments about the windmills being pushed further offshore with respect to the tourism industry. That puts them where New Jersey's commercial fisheries operate.
Right.
This is not a decision without consequences to others. So much to consider.
Absolutely. And that's why I voiced that opinion. I appreciate that Jeff is on. He's been a great voice and a great resource. Obviously, we can read all we want as legislators, but we actually need to discuss things with people who are actually in the field. And there probably isn't much of a better voice concerning our fisheries than Jeff Kalin. And, I appreciate his input. And, look, I've had discussions with Ørsted personally, and I voiced those concerns. There's also the issue of migratory birds. We don't know if that's going to happen with migratory birds. and how their population could possibly be decimated. The answer is we want to make sure we're all able to coexist without just, this wind energy just being jammed down everybody's throats. Consequences be damned.
Do you have time for one more?
I do. One more.
Okay, we're going to go back to Eric. He has one more question, so go ahead,
Sure.
Eric.
I just testing. Can you hear me?
I can. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. A quick question, Senator. I was wondering if you could touch on the $14 billion tax incentive that was passed through the New Jersey legislature. I was doing some research and I surfaced a December 21st story from the New York Times that was talking about the this tax incentive program that was passed. Apparently, it's called the New Jersey Economic Recovery Act of 2020. I was just wondering if you could touch on how the tax incentive could, how if you feel the tax incentives could help or they could hurt local businesses.
Eric, I believe you're with the Herald, correct?
Yes.
Cape May County Herald? Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
I mean, the issue that I have with that Recovery Act, again, is it didn't focus enough on small businesses. Here we have, like you said, $14 billion. And here we are, it seems to me, solely focused, or the majority focused, on big business. When you look at Cape May County and you look at Cumberland County and the sliver of Atlantic County that I represent, unfortunately, we don't have those ultra large businesses here in the true South Jersey in Legislative District 1. The large majority of our businesses are, the lifeblood of America's economy, and that's the small family-owned business. And that's my issue with it. I think that the act was necessary. I think that if you're going to shut down the entire state and prevent businesses from being able to earn money, that the government does in fact need to step in and help. But I've been a bigger advocate of let us be open. Let's make sure that our businesses can ramp up their opening with common sense, not just, all full steam ahead here, but with common sense that if in fact you start to see numbers rise, ramp it back. But if, again, like Cape May County, counting for less than 2% of all cases in the state during this entire pandemic, it made absolutely no sense whatsoever to keep dining at 25% capacity, to keep all of these issues at the same blanket rate that was applied to the entire state.
Okay. Thank you for taking my question.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Testa. We know you have some more obligations to get to. Just to echo Vinny's comments about the unemployment benefits, your office was tremendous. I can speak firsthand to that as to how you help folks through COVID, obviously continue to. And I could give you're a proud Vineland guy, but you pay a lot of attention to Cape May County, and we very much appreciate all that you do for us. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Doug. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And Vinny, thank you to Ocean First for being our sponsor today. Very much appreciated.
Thanks for having us, Doug. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And a few more items on our agenda. John Kelly is going to come on and give us a new member update and also a marketing report. John, you out there?
Yes, Doug, thank you so much. I feel like I need a deep breath after all of that. Keep the rest of the editorial to myself. But we do have a couple of great new members we wanted to introduce to everyone here today. And they are High Tide Cleaning Service, D Farside, doing commercial and residential cleaning here throughout Cape May County and South Jersey. And also Cesari Real Estate, a new real estate office in Ocean City. Some members might remember Steve and Brandy Cesari as owners of the Scarborough Inn Bed and Breakfast in Ocean City in the past. So they've moved on to a new endeavor into real estate. And I'm happy to say that one of the first things they did was to rejoin the Cape May County Chamber. I knew they were wise when I first met them. But with respect to the marketing report, Doug, I'm sitting here now, let everybody know, just trying to raise funds so that we can do everything we can to promote our members and the tourism season coming up. Trying to do everything we can to make the difference that we always do. So that's what I'm up to right now. And a lot of that surrounds, as you know, the Jersey Cape Vacation Guide, which is a great way for member businesses to promote themselves in the marketplace, along with its website and other digital offerings package. That's what we're working on right now. We're inching closer to putting the print component over to the printer. We expect that delivery about the third week of February. So we're lining up all our distribution and that type of thing. As soon as we send that over to the printer, Doug, we're going to move our attention to our digital offerings, the website, our email list with the visitors and the like, so that we're just ready to hit the ground running as soon as the weather gets a little bit warmer. And I can say that I've seen an uptick already in inquiries for our information. Website visitors, requests are definitely ticking up, and this is right around the time of the year that normally starts. So that's, I think, a pretty good indication. If things go forward in the right way, we'll hopefully have a good season. So that's it, but I welcome everyone to keep in contact with us with any questions or need any information about the opportunities or the resources that the chamber has to promote their business. So
Great.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, John. And one important follow-up, sponsorship, so important to the chamber right now, and as John will tell you. So again, Ocean First today, and Vinny, great sponsor for us. It's really helping us bring these programs about. Vicky's going to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're still looking for a sponsor for tomorrow. Is that right?
We are, yes.
Okay. So anyone on this call, we'd love to have a sponsor for tomorrow's very important call about the vaccine. As I mentioned, we have well over 100 folks registered. So great way to get your company out there, and please let John or Vicky know. With that, Vicky, for your president's report.
Thanks, Doug. I just have a couple of things. A lot of the discussion today did come from our Environment and Legislative Committee, and also our Tourism and Economic Development Committee. Those two committee chairs, I saw them on earlier today. I think they might have dropped off, Steve Morey and Jim Rotella. If anyone is interested in joining either of those committees, just let me know. They're very active, and they keep the issues current that the chamber is involved in. We welcome more members on either of those committees, so just let me know. I do want to remind everyone that all of our programming for these webinars and meetings, we do record them. So if you've missed something in the past, just go to the Chamber YouTube channel and you can find those programs, especially very timely ones like the PPP webinar that we did last week. You know, Doug has mentioned some important upcoming programs that we have too. So if the time that we're offering them doesn't coordinate with your schedule, or there's someone else in your office that you think, oh, they should have been on this, they can tune into it at a time of their convenience. So if you need more information, just get in touch with any of us in the office and we can help you out with that. With that, I just want to close by reminding everybody that our scholarship opportunity for high school seniors, those graduating this year, is available on our website. You can go to CapeMayCountyChamber.com/scholarship and find the application. Our high school scholarships are available also to students being homeschooled. So we try to make sure that nobody is left out in that opportunity as long as they're a Cape May County resident and meet all of the other criteria. So Doug, I'm going to turn it back to you.
All right, thank you, Vicky. Does anyone, I'm going to open up to the floor. Does anyone have any announcements? You can unmute yourself.
I'd like to just thank the chamber. This is Nancy Udanich from the Technical School District. I think your daily informational emails and your webinars and your delivery and speakers is fabulous. I'm very proud to be part of this. I can't thank you all enough. My heart's with the small business, and I think Senator Testa said it correctly in that our county is unique. We are not, and I think our chamber from the state gentlemen, we are not Bergen County. Our schools are not Essex or Bergen County. We're all in it together. So I wish you all good health and a huge thank you to our county chamber and its leadership.
Thank you, Dr. Udanich.
You're welcome.
Vicky, if I may have a quick question, please. As we all know, the hospitality and the seasonal businesses dominate this area. And again, as we all know, we had major shortage, in employees. Talking to all my clients, especially, them heavily depending on the J1 student visa. Do we know, Vicky, as of this moment? I know due to COVID, obviously they can't travel. Do we know, any updates on that? Please.
So my understanding at this point right now is that the summer work travel program should be available for this summer season. I haven't heard any difficulties that like to the level that we had last year. Of course, many of those problems were because of COVID. So a lot of that was due to travel restrictions and the universities, because first the student has to be a university student.
Correct.
So a lot of the issues will depend on what's happening in their home country. But I will follow up with you and let you know. And I'm actually participating in a panel discussion with an Interchange Alliance in early February. And I know I'll get a lot of information from that.
Please keep me updated. I'm very interested in that. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you everyone for joining our first lunch meeting of the year. Stay safe. And again, a special thank you to Ocean First and Vinny. Thank you for sponsoring today. And we'll see a lot of you tomorrow on our next call. Thank you, everyone.
See you tomorrow.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.